This message is easily one of the most important that I've made and that anybody else has made, considering the weight that it has taken on.
When Trump talks about making America great again, that is code for taking us back to a time when racial minorities
in our society over the course of recent decades, largely because not just naive, ignorant, misinformed liberals, but many in the conservative community are falling for this crap about the idea that racism is either an enormous problem in our society. It is an enormous problem, by the way, but not how it's being reported. It's an enormous problem, exactly the opposite of how it's being reported. Completely hushed up is an epidemic of black racism, and oftentimes violent black racism in America. But it's important also because lives are destroyed, and elections are hinge on the idea that somebody, nearly always a conservative threatening the New World Order in America, is targeted as a racist.
It's so funny because the teabaggers, the one thing they hate is when you call them racist. The other thing they hate is black people.
Racist behavior by Tea Party members.
Hand in hand in a violent life, making love on the edge of a knife, and the world comes tumbling down.
You think your Republican colleagues are racist?
Not all of them.
Feel that the GOP has always sort of been like a slightly
Racist?
party.
So does Perry really believe African Americans' struggle for civil rights is comparable to the GOP's fight for lower taxes?
The Republican base does have elements that are animated by racism, and that.
Now, I've said this before, but it's important to add in. Republicans are the party who sent their boys, husbands, sons, to die, setting the slaves free from Democrats. It's crucial to lay out that piece of information. After losing the war, Democrats founded the Klan. 100 years later, they were running the South and imposing segregation on blacks. A Republican president, Eisenhower, had to go in with federal troops and force Democrat mayors and governors down south to let black children into schools. It's all been flipped around in the last 30 or 40 years, where the Democrats, still hateful, even though they don't overtly act racist anymore, have, and still liars, vicious, globalist, traitorous liars, the Democrats. And to be fair, they've got about 90% of the Republican Party on their side. Democrats, in collusion with the media, ABC News, NBC, and CBS, to name the primary players, decided at some point, and they did it very well actually, to pin the label of racism on Republicans, whereas it was never Republicans. And it's just a vicious, horrible lie. It becomes a hateful and evil lie when the product of all of that deceit over the years filters down into the streets through women who go on welfare and have babies without husbands, raise children where they're lied to in schools about a so-called epidemic of white racism. And they become violent. They have no fathers. They're deceived in the media and in the schools, and then combine with other deceived children in the neighborhoods to foment this resentment based on feeling that they were somehow cheated of a birthright amounting to just freedom, to normalcy in our society. If anything, blacks are the guilty party these days.
In the police report, it states the defendant, Dickerson, approached the white male victim. The defendant told him he was in the wrong neighborhood and he was not going to make it out. Eventually knocked unconscious, which later he awoke in the hospital. Their teenage daughter got out of the car to check on her parents and observed a female punch her mother in the face. When her mother then fell to the concrete, hitting her head on the surface. The daughter was also hit in the face.
They are all black, and police say race motivated their brazen and random attacks on complete strangers.
Number 2. David Duke and the Ku Klux Klan. Remember, Democrats founded the Klan, all right? So let's trace this back. It's a teeny bit complicated. I'll see if I can handle it in like 2 minutes. Trump is accused of refusing to disavow David Duke and therefore disavow the Klan. That's not how it went down with Jake Tapper, who has twice trapped Trump in one of these smear campaigns. Jake Tapper from CNN, who used to work for, I believe, ABC. What went down is Tapper listed a number of groups that are supposedly racist and therefore terrible, that were supposedly lending support to Trump. And he asked him live on the air. I don't know how many of you have ever been live on the air and asked questions, but it really isn't that easy. You can say a lot of things wrong. However, Donald Trump really didn't say anything wrong. He just did not defend himself quite as well as he could have. He was asked by Tapper to disavow all of those groups. Well, as a wise person, Trump said, I'm not going to disavow them right now until I know who they are, what they stand for. I need to study these people. There it is. Bang. David Duke from the Klan encouraged his followers to support the candidacy. Tapper demands that be disavowed.
Will you unequivocally condemn David Duke and say that you don't want his vote or that of other white supremacists in this election?
Well, just so you understand, I don't know anything about David Duke, okay? I don't know anything about what you're even talking about with white supremacy or white supremacists. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know, did he endorse me or what's going on? Because, you know, I know nothing about David Duke. I know nothing about white supremacists. And so you're asking me a question that I'm supposed to be talking about people that I know nothing about.
But I guess the question from the Anti-Defamation League is, even if you don't know about their endorsement, there are these groups and individuals endorsing you. Would you just say unequivocally you condemn them and you don't want their support?
Well, I have to look at the group. I mean, I don't know what group you're talking about. You wouldn't want me to condemn a group that I know nothing about. I'd have to look. If you would send me a list of the groups, I will do research on them, and certainly I would disavow if I thought there was something wrong. But you may have groups in there that are totally fine, and it would be very unfair. So give me a list of the groups, and I'll let you know.
Okay. I mean, I'm just talking about David Duke and the Ku Klux Klan here, but...
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know David Duke. I don't believe I've ever met him. I'm pretty sure I didn't meet him, and I just don't know anything about him.
All a setup. A, it's smart to not be rejecting people on live television, smearing their reputations and characters until you studied the issue precisely. B, David Duke's not in the Klan. Got that? That's a pretty big deal, right? David Duke was in the Klan when he was a Democrat 40 years ago.
Now let's go into the subject of the, quote, Ku Klux Klan, and the fact that the media, every time they mention my name, they mention the KKK. Well, I can prove to you very simply, to any of you who are open-minded, that that is nothing more than media bias. It's a manipulation of you and a complete distortion of reality. The fact is that I am not in the KKK. I haven't been in the KKK now almost 40 years, and I was only a KKK spokesman for about 3 years of a non-violent Klan group.
So the entire smear is based on a lie, based on compound lies. hiding the fact that Democrats are the party of the Klan and of racism, of slavery, of segregation, hiding that Duke is not a Klan member any longer, hiding that he was a Democrat when he had been. Moreover, and it gets better, a lot of the lies in the elite media are perpetrated by leaving out context and additional information. If the Republican candidate is guilty by association for simply refusing at the moment to disavow Klan membership, which he ultimately did, and that's actually a sort of error on the part of Trump, because it shows that he ended up buying their disinformation rather than studying the issue all the way through, which, admittedly takes some effort. It does take some effort to figure out what's going on around here, and who the hell's got time for it? Trump's running businesses and running for president. Here's the left out part, the major left out part. Robert C. Byrd was not just an elected senator in the United States Congress, but he was leader of the Senate and a former Klan member, a Democrat. It gets better. Hillary Clinton is on video, I'll see if I can find one and add it to this, praising Robert Byrd.
Today, our country has lost a true American original, my friend and mentor, Robert C. Byrd.
Everybody else has been canonizing Senator Byrd. I'd like to humanize him a little bit.
Senator Byrd was a man of surpassing eloquence and nobility, and I will remember him for many things. It is almost impossible to imagine the United States Senate without Robert Byrd. He was not just its longest serving member, he was its heart, its soul, and its historian. From my first day in the Senate, I sought out his guidance, and he was always generous with his time and his wisdom.
Now let's compare the two, okay? You got a former Klan member who's a Democrat in the Senate as leader of the Senate, praised by Hillary Clinton, now running for president on the Democratic ticket. And then on the flip side, you got Donald Trump, who did not praise any Klan member, any former Klan member, who merely said he needed to study a little bit before rejecting a support. And which one is targeted as a racist? Fascinating, isn't it? And lots of Democrats are on record praising Robert C. Byrd. Along with the media, along with everybody. He is a celebrated liberal. That's okay. It's okay to, if the definition of racism is embracing a former Klan member, which Trump didn't even do, but Hillary Clinton certainly did, then Clinton's guilty. The Democrat in this race, one of two people is guilty, the other one is innocent. All of those lies fitted into the program to turn liberal airheads against this man, who has some flaws, to be sure. Racism has not ever been demonstrated to be one of them. And even if it had, it would be a crime of ignorance rather than of the heart.
And let me tell you, for those people who want to go and support Trump, it really makes it almost like a scary scenario. I mean, they become fearful to even want to go out and go see Trump.
Another was beaten, and one was chased down the street by Hispanics who are being hateful, evil, and in some cases racist, many times associating themselves with the racist organization La Raza. That form of racism is approved by the liberal elite media.
Breaking overnight, an angry mob attacked a Trump supporter outside a Trump rally in San Jose, California.
It was an ugly scene yesterday afternoon in San Jose when several hundred protesters targeted Donald Trump supporters after his rally, when she had eggs thrown at her face. Watch how grown men stood there screaming at her and cheering. And it wasn't just eggs. Other demonstrators threw bottles at Trump supporters, spat on them, and ripped away their signs and set them on fire, along with the American flag, while police in riot gear stood by. Cameras also caught several Trump supporters with blood running down their faces after they were sucker punched.
But where you got the case of Donald Trump, who has not even been racist, the term has been used to destroy his reputation worldwide. He's pretty good at fighting on his own.
They think it's like Mother Teresa's coming across the border, okay? This one says 80% of Central American women and girls are raped crossing into the United States. Well, I said drug dealers, I said killers, and I said rapists.
But it takes a lot of informed people to get somebody over the hill and into the presidency. That's us. That's our job. This is my world. It's on my heart to present this stuff. And you take the information and go where you will with it. Help out. Join up. If you're a liberal, get deprogrammed. Go to MRC. Like I said, listen to talk radio. And get informed so you can join the good guys. Because we're not perfect people, but we're fighting for truth and honor and common sense. We've been doing that before Donald Trump, and those who are in the groove will be doing it afterward. But or don't fight. You know, do whatever you want in this life. But I want to get it out there that this man has been falsely accused, purposely. Innocent on all 3 counts. That's all.